This is MJ. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an analyzer. Find all my work at mjmunoz.com. Prepare yourself for some off-the-cuff book talk as I tackle another middle-grade book chapter by chapter. I am bringing you my thoughts, my review, my chapter-by-chapter coverage or discussion of, that's what I think, chapter-by-chapter discussion of Maniac Magee. This first chapter that I'm talking about is not the first chapter. It's actually the introduction. It's called Before the Story, and it's kind of wild. I don't like this writing style, and I'm suddenly regretting that I decided to listen to this book, to have this book on my list. It's, a famous award-winning type of book. It's got accolades, and just because something has accolades doesn't mean it's actually good, which is something that I'd forgotten about. I don't know, but it's on a list of other books, like it has Number of the Stars on here, of, listeners also enjoyed, that kind of thing. And that was a great book. It was one of the best books I've read so far, in this section. But then BFG's on there. BFG is supposedly weird. I don't know. Cricket in Times Square is on that list as well, and that's a great book. So yeah, I'm really not sure what to think about this. And just because something is popular doesn't mean it's good. And again, just because something has accolades doesn't mean I'll like it either. It doesn't mean you'll like it. You don't have to like what everybody likes. You don't have to go by the Newbery Award list. That has a certain utility, but you also need to use your own discernment. And I kind of randomly, selected or used I used ChatGPT, I believe, to come up with this list. People talk about the biases of that, and I did a little bit of filtering, but some of the books I didn't know what they were. I just knew that they were acclaimed, and I thought, hey, I'm going to check them out, because the point of the project of Fortress Fiction is to check out these classic and modern children's books that have great appeal, great success, and see how I like them and see if I think they're worthy of a place of honor in the Fortress Fiction. That's what I'm doing here. And yeah, I don't know what to think about this book. It's so strange already. And my biggest problem with it, so it has an ending line that goes with a 1, 2, 3 structure. The history of a life, I think is what it says, is that the history of a kid's life is 1 part fact, 2 parts legend, and 3 parts snowball. I think that's a non sequitur. If it isn't actually a non sequitur that just means nothing, then it's got some sort of hidden meaning in it. And a snowball does 2 things. So it's like a very evocative language that's being used, but it's also strange and weird, and I don't really like it. And I don't know that there's much utility in it to children, who's the intended audience. Will it make them more critical thinkers? I don't know. It might just, like, I honestly listened to this chapter 2 or 3 times, and I just finished re-listening to it as I was walking out here to sit down and talk about this book, or this introduction. And I thought, the thought came to me, this book is sliding off of my mind. And then I thought, no, that's not quite right. And then I tried listening to it again, and I thought, okay, the writing style of this is repellent to my mind. And it'll be funny if I watch this, or if I listen to this whole book and I end up loving it at the end. But, yeah, it's got like a slam poetry, kind of style to the diction. And that honestly might be a little bit because it's being read by S. Apatha Merkerson. And if you don't know who she is, she's fabulous. I don't know what else she was in, but I know her from Law and Order from the 90s and maybe early 2000s, with Briscoe and Green. And she was the LT over their unit. I can't remember what precinct they were in, but Law and Order, the crime, procedural show. And man, that's a great show. That's a great show. And she was great in that show. And, she's an African-American woman, so she brings her own, style, and like she brings herself to the role of reading this book. And the book's about, black people and white people, I presume, because it's about racial division in somewhere southish, I guess. The kid was born in Pennsylvania, I think is what they say. Or did I just meet someone from Pennsylvania? I'm not sure. Anyway, yeah, it's odd. It's odd. She brings her style to it, and I think it's a great performance. And it sounds good. And that's the thing about like that slam poetry style of writing. There was a Star Wars book written by Daniel Jose Older. It was a Han and Lando book, I believe. Last Shot, I think is what it's called. And for the audiobook, they did 3 people. They did a woman, him, and one other man, I believe, who did the reading. And Daniel Jose Older's performance is, I'd pull it up for you if I could, but it's, at one point, somebody gets drunk, or like Chewbacca gets like spice thrown into his face. And if you don't know from Star Wars, spice is like a drug. And, you know, I'm just going to patch it in. I'm going to find a clip and I'm going to record like 10 seconds of his performance and share it with you. And like, I overall like that book a lot, but like, I kind of cringed every time his parts came up, because he covers like a specific character at a specific time in their life. And, just like the delivery and like the structure of the diction, it's like or the structure of the sentences, the prose, it's very like trying to sound like, you know, I walked up the stairs, grabbed a cigarette, lit it as I stroked the match against the hard wooden banister. The heat of the fire lit up the end of the cigarette like a wall of iron that had been left on too long. It was burnt, sweet, almost like caramelized, you know, wheat, which that rhymed on accident. Anyway, it's like that kind of style where it's just like, you're trying to sound really cool and you're trying to like be something and like project an image of something. That's what I felt about those sections of that book. But the one man wrote them all, and, the other sections didn't feel like that. So he gave voice and character to each section of the book. And I know I'm talking about a Star Wars book now, not about Maniac Magee, but this first chapter really feels like it has that, or this introduction, it has that vibe of like that, trying to harken back to like like a beatnik. It's like beatnik delivery of a story. And, I don't really appreciate that. Like, I'm happy for those people to do that on their own. But it doesn't mean I have to like it in my books. And I don't like it here. And, spoilers, cause the chapters are so short, I actually listened to all of chapter 1 as well, which is just a couple minutes, and it's similar. Like, I don't know. I'll just go back to it real quick. In the intro, they say that Maniac Magee was born in a dumpster, or a dump, that his heart was a cereal box and his stomach was a spring, and he had an 8-inch cockroach that he walked on a leash, and rats that would guard him at night when he slept. And like, I don't know if that's supposed to be kid myth and kid legend, like old school playground legend when there was no internet, when there was only like, you know, 3 TV channels, and kids would just like make stuff up, and, you know, lore developed and things like that. And that's something I kind of touched on in, I only remember Sam Clemens. Oh, Mark Twain. In Mark Twain's, Huckleberry Finn. Wait. Tom Sawyer. Tom Sawyer is what I read, for Fortress Fiction. And I talk about that, and, like, it's interesting. And I don't know if it's distinctly Southern, because Tom Sawyer was definitely Southern. He grew up in rural Mississippi, or, you know, Mississippi is rural, I guess. At the time, all of it was rural. And, like the vocal performance of that was really good, and it had like a music to it and a rhyme, and I'm sure that comes from, you know, the actor gave that performance, but also it came from what Clemens wrote himself, what Twain wrote. And like, there's definitely skill in what, Jerry Spinelli is doing. Like, he's doing something skillful, but I don't have to appreciate it. I'm not required to appreciate your skills, and I don't appreciate this. So far. So it'll be interesting to see how I get through the book. You know, it's blessedly short. I think, the total, like, it should take me about 3 hours to get through, the book, which probably 6 hours, cause I'll listen and then I'll come talk about it. And, yeah, I don't know. If you've read this book, I'd like to know about it. I'd like to know what your thoughts are on it. I'd like to know if it gets better. And I mean that in multiple ways. And, yeah, I know this will be an interesting journey. And just because the book's on the list, and just because I'm doing a chapter by chapter, doesn't mean I'm going to like it. Doesn't mean it's going to get into the Fortress Fiction. But in spite of the book itself, or these things I don't like about it, it might be an amazing book that gets in anyway. So, I just might have the caveat that, yeah, it belongs here, but it's just not for me. I'm not the target audience for it. I'm not the reader for it. But anyway, I don't know. This will be an interesting journey through this book. So till next time, folks, take care and keep reading. Here is a sample of what I was talking about from Star Wars Last Shot by Daniel Jose Older, a book I do like, but I lobbed some criticism at.
very clear that whatever that song was, it was all about Han's current crappy state of affairs. Each bending lick and all those whining harmonies echoing each other, teasing, returning to the ether. They were clearly designed to paint pictures of Han's own mashed up heart, the pulsing sense of regret, the never-ending replay of each step along his dumb, broken life that had led him here to this moment. Lovesick and wasted at Maz's and waiting for Sana to show up with whatever ridiculous cargo she needed his help smuggling. And Sana was late, which the song seemed to know too. Prep the Falcon, she'd said before she left. Chewie would do it. And anyway, the Falcon was always prepped. And why were these cackling Batanga notes mirroring Han's silent conversation with himself?
Yeah, so, I mean, there it is. A song doesn't know anything. It's very expressive, but it's like mumbo jumbo, sort of. And it kind of irritates me. And that's the kind of thing you get in Maniac Magee as well. And it's just an interesting, I don't know if that's a whole literary subgenre or what that is, but I'm not familiar with it, and I'm not the audience for it, and I'm not saying anybody who is wrong. It's just surprising that if it is a thing, that it is a thing, because I wouldn't think anybody would be too interested in hearing that for too long. So anyway, I think that's going to be it for now. I hope you enjoyed that. Please remember to like, share, subscribe. I invite you to comment, ask questions, and share your thoughts with me. It's always more fun when you're part of the conversation. Until next time, keep reading, be well, and do good things. Visit mjmunoz.com for more of my work and help me build up the Fortress Fiction.